Greetings, listener. In today's episode of the Euro Football Verdicts, we'll see that size does not matter and that small people can do big damages. Right, Barca? Also, with silly season underway, what does the future hold for some of the brightest players that are looking for new clubs in Europe? Finally, in our new segment called Clubs on Trial, we will see what is happening at Valencia and how they might need to fight to avoid relegation next year. This and much more in today's Euro Football Verdicts.
Hello guys, welcome to the new episode of the Euro Football Verdicts. Today's episode is a big one, and that's why we need the help of Stefano. Hi Steph, how are you doing?
Hi man, all good. How's it going?
Very well. How about our other co-host, Marco?
Hi everyone, how are you doing?
Very nice. So, guys, we have a lot to discuss. Let's kick it off with our first topic of the day. Something apparently is happening in Barcelona.
That's true, yeah. Something is happening at Barcelona indeed. But before diving into this, let's just sit back, take a moment, and think about this. 15 years playing for Barcelona's A team, 630 goals in total, an average of 0.81 goals per match. By far the top scorer of the Spanish La Liga with 440 goals in 479 matches. And the second one is Cristiano Ronaldo with 311, by the way, 247 assists. He participated by either scoring or making his teammates score to 40.2% of Barcelona's goal since his debut in 2005. 6 times Ballon d'Or winner, 4 UEFA Champions Leagues won, 10 Spanish La Liga won, and so many other trophies that I almost feel like there's no time to say all of them. And now I think we all know who we are talking about. We are talking about La Pulga, the legend, Lionel Messi, a man who has recently turned 33 years old. And even though it is not confirmed yet, it looks like after so many years and such a impressive and incredible career, he's finally ready to leave Barcelona, his team. This is a lot to process, right, guys?
Yeah, for sure, Stefano. It's quite an interesting situation. I think it's something that all the football fans, to some extent, were hoping for. Seeing Messi with another in another club, seeing Messi in another country, really understanding how extraordinary he is. As you mentioned, the numbers are amazing, but he had the luck of always being probably in one of the best environments to get this number. At the same time, it's heartbreaking. He is the face of Barcelona. He has created this Barcelona, and he's just been the leader of that team. And I really struggle to think about Barcelona without Messi in the team. What's gonna be? How are they gonna play?
Yeah, that's a very good point, Marco. And indeed, like the feeling is of like such surprise that it's almost unbelievable. It feels unbelievable at this point. But the rumors are spreading, and they're not just rumors. We all know that Messi is not happy at Barcelona anymore. Just the other day, we saw that Pep Guardiola, his former coach, is going to Barcelona to try to speak to him or to his father, who's also his manager. And there are many interested teams. And as unbelievable as it can be, it almost feels like it's happening. What do you think, Alex? Is it really happening or not?
I think right now it's way too far gone. Let's be honest. When the news broke out, we all thought that it might just be a power play. The idea was to get rid of Bartomeu as the president. Maybe if he would resign, Messi would come back, but it's not showing to be the case. He even shows to be available to resign, but Messi is just not interested. So from that standard, he's definitely leaving. The question is to where and how is he leaving? Because Barcelona is still demanding the 700 millions. Now, based on what Marco just said and you listed of all the facts, that's for me the saddest part. It's not that he's leaving, but the way he is leaving. I think Barcelona is turning this into a fight that doesn't have to be. You know, he looks like he's leaving behind a destroyed team, yes, but he has his right to leave. He did enough, more than enough for that team. He got also very well paid for it, but still, it's like he's now the bad guy in this whole situation, which isn't really fair.
Yeah, indeed. It was such a beautiful marriage between him and Barcelona that it does feel sad that it's probably going to end in such a way. And only the day before yesterday, we know that Messi was supposed to go to Barcelona for taking the COVID mandatory test, but he did not attend that, which was a contract breach. And there's a lot of tension between him and the manager. And the main question, in my opinion, maybe second main question after where he might be going, is how did we come to this, and what happened between Messi and Barcelona, and as with any and as with not any but many marriages which end and end up in a divorce, I think there maybe are multiple factors coming into play. What do you think, Marco?
Yeah, I think it's a long story, as you mentioned, right? Messi, over time, felt Barcelona being his club. Of course, being one of the best players, he also deserved to have a lot of strong voice in also with the management in making decisions and so on. For instance, we know that also Tata Martino was, for instance, a clear decision apparently that Messi made to the management to have him as a trainer compared to someone else. But then when we also need to look at what is happening now, I think that Barcelona just decided to completely change direction. The past couple of years haven't been as successful as they used to be. The let's continue with what has been created 10 years ago is not working no more. And Koeman, I think, is a very clear decision and steer that the management made towards this drastic change from the roots up. Sending many players away, getting Koeman in the first interaction with Messi when already everyone knew about the Messi unrest, right? And fans were hoping that, hey, Koeman can talk with him and can close the situation. No, Koeman went there, according to the media, and when they're saying, this is not your club, you're just a player of the club. And I think for Messi, that was really the very last straw. He wants to feel, he knows how good he is, and he wants to feel important in a team. But for Barcelona, from the look of things, that won't be the case no more. At the same time, things weren't working over the past couple of years, so there was the need of a change. So it's, as you mentioned, marriages break up because of multiple factors intertwining. This is one of those things. On one hand, you have Barcelona wanted to split from Messi. The other hand, you have Messi wanted to split from Barcelona. You just need to accept that at a certain point.
Yeah, Koeman may have been the last straw indeed, and not only in the way he approached Messi and spoke to him, but also in his highly controversial decision, in my opinion, to just get rid of Luis Suarez, who for Messi is more than a friend. They are almost brothers. The respective families are very close. They often go out together, and that may very well have been indeed the last straw for Messi's relationship with Barcelona.
Yeah, I think the Koeman effect is definitely a real one, but we also need to think it from the Messi perspective. We're talking about a 33-year-old who now is being told, well, we're going to rebuild the club. We might not win for the next couple of years, but we're going to have an amazing club after. Now the question is, as a 33-year-old, where you have 2 to 3 years still on the highest in the game, do you really want to be in a rebuilding club? So from Messi's perspective, I actually understand the move. If we forget the whole sentiment, it makes sense for him to move. If it was another player in another club, we would say, sure, move, because Messi needs to take whatever he can still do from this game. And going to a club that can provide him with winning titles, with a team where he will add and make the difference, instead of waiting for youngsters like Ansu Fati, Trincão, and others to come along, I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it does. It's probably one of the mindset and reasoning that you apply to yourself or to your career when you turn 33 as a player, indeed. And another important factor that probably played a role in this story is the so-called Barçagate, the scandal which happened last year, and according to which the directors of Barcelona allegedly hired some private companies to try to discredit Messi and other key players on social networks. And that would have been because they were concerned about Messi and these key players having too much power within the team. Marco, would you say that Messi indeed had too much power in the team, and maybe his position got even too strong for Barca's director to support?
Yes, but that's not an excuse. Let me answer with this and let me elaborate. So Messi is the mastermind behind Barcelona. He's the puppeteer, and there are other figures who are important, but you cannot do anything without Messi. I believe, from my understanding, it started almost to be a mafia, and probably because I'm Italian, right? But that kind of position where you always need to go to someone before you can make any decision, move forward. You need to have the blessing of that player, for the manager, for the new joiner, etc. So this was the situation. However, I believe if those rumors, which again looks being true, that never been confirmed throughout, but there are good proofs to show that that happened, and also that otherwise wouldn't explain why Abidal and Messi didn't get along afterwards. There are many reasons why I think that that's wrong. It's your players, like, you're investing in them. That's your capital. It's like in a company, the CEO going against the same own company. Like, what's the point of it? I really don't understand. If you want to make the change, you do what Barcelona is doing right now. You get rid of those players. You don't discredit them in the media.
No, yeah, that point I agree fully with Marco. I think this was, well, in the making for a long time. The way they went to be able to create this divide between players and fans, I think it's a joke. Should this be proven, again, this is all alleged, that it makes no sense. But the power that these players had, the so-called sacred cows, as they are now being labeled, which is Gerard Piqué, Alba, Suarez, Messi, the power they had was just extraordinary. And you might say, well, there's the same at Real Madrid, with Ramos, Benzema, and the others. But somehow in Barcelona, they have a weak president. When you compare to Real Madrid, Florentino, he has the power there. There is no disputing. They have voice, but they don't have power. And in Barcelona, it gives me the impression that the president is weak, that is worried about being undermined by players. And all in all, that creates a really bad club atmosphere, and the players then have more pressure, because that was the idea now. For me, when I heard this, if Bartomeu were to resign the next day and say, okay, I resign so Messi can stay. If Messi stays, then what a pressure does Barcelona have next season? And Messi more than anyone else, because it's his club then. He decided who's the president. So if it goes bad, it's also his head rolling, which could maybe even be worse than this situation right now, because you have some Barcelona fans who view Bartomeu as the evil one right now and not Messi. If it were to lead to Bartomeu's demise and Messi leading Barcelona into an unsuccessful season, it would be Messi's fault that the club collapses. So next year's remontada that they would suffer, definitely in the Champions League, would be Messi's fault. And right now, it's the club's fault.
Yeah, that's some very good insight, Alex. And indeed, the situation is such a delicate and complicated conundrum at this point. And still thinking about the causes for Messi's likely divorce to Barcelona. There's still his unhappiness with Barca's decision to sack Valverde last year. His not so good relationship with the new manager for Barcelona. Maybe Barcelona's failure to try to get back Neymar when Neymar 3 years ago wanted to come back to Barcelona. And we could go on like that, but let's face it, we are probably going to see the reckoning for all of this. And of course, after how did we come to this? The most important question is what's next? What's next for La Pulga? On pole position, there seems to be Manchester City, who's of course very interested, and Guardiola would love to have Messi back to play for him. There are also other teams interested, such as Inter Milan, maybe Paris Saint-Germain. What do you think, Marco? Where do you see Lionel Messi playing next year?
I really believe he's gonna go to City now. I think Messi is not just looking at the next 2 years of his career, but he also is looking at the next 5. I would say at the next 5 rather than the next 2. And I believe that City is the only team or clusters of team, as I should say, that can ensure this. So from what I'm hearing, the 2/3 years in UK and the rest done in the US in the one of the other City clubs. I think that's going to be a proposal that Messi cannot refuse. That's what he's looking for. I don't see him at this moment in time looking for a managerial position, being part of a coaching team or a training team. I think he just wants to play and be good and be rewarded for being good, also in other countries. That also always has been, from his attractors. He's only good at Barcelona. He's never been good at Argentina. He's never been good outside Spain. How can we make sure that he's the greatest player of our time, and that one is not Ronaldo? He has the chance to prove it now, and I think City is the best atmosphere with a manager that knows him, that knows how to play a team around him, that can valorize him. Probably the best years of Messi were with Guardiola. So yeah, I think that's gonna be a very nice marriage.
I think from where I would like to see him, I would like to see him at Inter. I think it would have been amazing, with Lukaku, Lautaro, Conte screaming at Messi because he doesn't run. It would be amazing, and see Cristiano, Ibra, Messi, Serie A would be amazing. There also he has one advantage, especially quite big versus France, which is the tax situation. It's quite beneficial in Italy at the moment. Don't forget he has Italian citizenship. So he's coming back to Italy in that sense. So he has a lot of benefits from the tax perspective. But I agree with Marco fully. I think City is the most plausible in the short and long run because, yes, he earns a lot. He earns around 50 million net a year now at Barca. It's 100 million gross. The issue is going to City would allow maybe he could be a City Football Group employee. That would take the wage part out of it. He could be a consultant for the United Arab Emirates. That would make up a lot of the money that he might be losing if he gets a cheaper football contract and be paid at the same level of an Aguero. There is other ways that he can be paid without hurting financial fair play, which right now at City is an issue. Plus, as you mentioned, afterwards, easy transition in 2 years. He goes within the group, goes to New York City, plays there, and for another 2-3 years, finishes his career on a high, maybe even does a year at Newell's, and has a wonderful career. Maybe he gets the new Champions League in at City, would make him definitely in a pole position to squash the rumors that he's not the best because he didn't do it on a Tuesday night in rainy Stoke.
Yeah. Let's see what his wannabe new teams, what kind of tricks they're going to pull to try to take Messi, and we'll see it. But of course, it is something that we're going to discuss again in the upcoming weeks as soon as there are some news about that. But for now, let's move to the next topic of today's podcast.
And from Messi, let's move to other players that are about to move. I mean, transfer market is opening. It's a weird situation where end of August, usually these are the days where all the details are being finalized, all the final contracts are being signed, the facts being sent, and people are moving. This year is slightly different. We're just starting. Many players without a contract are still looking for a club. Many players are being pushed out of the club. So I would just like to do an overview of what we have identified as the biggest five, I would say, or the most interesting five rather, that are about to change team. And let me start from one that has been quite important over the past couple of weeks, Philippe Coutinho. He came to Bayern. He was between the starting 11 and the substitute, but he had a really great spell over the past couple of games in the Champions League. He was key for Bayern to win the Champions League. Great performances over the past days. However, there are many rumors of where he might go. We saw Koeman calling him for the training for Barcelona for the kickoff of the season. Koeman really wants him. Philippe Coutinho doesn't look like someone that would, though, accept to get back to a club that didn't trust him this very year, sending him out on loan. Probably he would like to get back to the UK, according to rumors. Now, just sharing the three clubs that are most spoken about for him to move are Leicester, Arsenal, and Tottenham right now. And I also wanted to check with you, Alex, and say, what is your thought? Where should Coutinho go? What would be the best place for him and why?
I think the Leicester situation, I don't think it's a plausible one. I think it's a complete different way of playing, the one that Brendan Rodgers is now putting in place there. It's a bit different from what he used to do at Liverpool. In this case, he has to play on Vardy's strength. He has a very strong midfield. It's a very physical team, more than it was at Liverpool, where they had Suarez and Sterling up front being very tricky. From the teams you mentioned, I think the Arsenal one is quite interesting. It was the strongest rumor was that one. My question is if Arsenal has the budget. They had to fire people right now. They still have a very fat signing sitting in the wages, which is Mesut Ozil. They are not even able to renew Aubameyang because of that. And Tottenham just seems out of place for a club like Tottenham. I think Coutinho would like to go to a club where he feels appreciated. Right now it happened at Espanyol and Liverpool. Liverpool is not going to happen for sure because he is a very wage-driven. I would be happy to see him maybe going to an Atletico, which is a very defensive style, I understand. But they're now trying to make a change. And the more players like João Felix you feed into that system, the more you force a change. I would like to see Coutinho trying there, but I think it's a big wage. So I'm concerned that in the end, it might just end up with him running out his contract at Barcelona and staying in the bench, a bit like he did at Bayern.
Yeah, that's a very fair point indeed. With all the players that we're going to discuss today, I think wages are an issue. That's what's happening with modern football. You have a player you hired for a lot of money, you renew the contract once because you cannot get rid of him often. And then you have 7-10 million contracts a year. When they reach or they close towards the 30 years mark, it's quite hard to get rid of him at that point. But for Coutinho, yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's key for him to be part of a team where inside forwards are the pillar. He used to play more in the center when he was, for instance, at Inter. Then I think his golden years were on the wings. And I think that's also where I like him the most. His capability of also moving through channels and dribbling and being quick, and reactive, I think are his key. So I would really like him to be in a team like that. I'm going to go a little bit off the route, but I think a team where I would love to see him, and I know I will never be able to see him, would be Napoli. I could really see him in the Sarri ball system, with the wingback Insigne and Mertens cutting in from the sides, very quick pace, very fast pace, good dribbles, good shots from the outside. I think he would benefit. Of course, it's not in the finance of Napoli to get such a player, but I think it would be the perfect fit.
Yeah, I think because also Barcelona is going to demand a big transfer fee, which might not be the same with the other players we're going to discuss. So that might be an issue for Napoli to give, since I already paid quite a lot for Osimhen.
Yeah, precisely. And from one player that, as we mentioned, would benefit from Napoli, from a player that was one of the stars of Napoli, Gonzalo Higuain. Currently at Juventus, he had a good spell at Juventus during the first couple of years, but already this year was starting in the starting 11 many times. However, he's not at the stage of life, and also at this age, he cannot perform as he used to perform. Now, Juventus is getting rid of him, so he's gonna leave for Afri. However, there are not that many teams interested in him. He's asking about 10 million a year. We have rumors about either teams in South America, such as River Plate, just getting him back home, let's say. Or we have a couple of teams here and there, but no one really convinced. Is it just because his golden age are gone, Stefano?
Yeah, well, it might be just that Gonzalo Higuain's best days have passed. But even though I understand the financial difficulties that such operations could have for some teams, I still see Gonzalo Higuain playing in Italian Serie A in the future. Of course, it is a league that Higuain knows very well. He's been playing Serie A for many years now. And in his, I believe, last season with Napoli, he got the record for most goals scored in Serie A ever. So he knows the teams, he knows how to score in this championship. And even though it could be very well that his best days have passed, and maybe he's not at the level to play for a huge team such as Juventus anymore, then I still see Higuain making the difference for a medium to high tier team, such as, I don't know, it could benefit to, I don't know, Fiorentina, or maybe Torino, perhaps even Lazio. Marco, what do you think? Or with Immobile, you are still set?
I mean, Immobile did as many goals as Higuain. Sorry, very biased on that. I had to get it out. No, but jokes aside, I think that Higuain, also with his body type, he really needs to play every single game to be in shape. He's prone to get fattier, and we all know about many jokes that also during his times at Napoli were about his not completely fitness and his belly also at Juventus and so on. So I think it really needs a team investing time and effort in him being the star. However, yeah, at his age, which 32 years old, moving to 33 by the end of the year, it's quite late if you really want to invest. Possibly a 2 years contract. A couple of teams, as you mentioned, such as Fiorentina, who are still struggling in finding a good striker up front, could really benefit them. But it's gonna be tight. I think it's the end of the Higuain spell. He was very good also with his. He was agile, not fast. Let me put it this way. He was very quick and in moving in the box, in finding the best position, and in finding the good shot. However, yeah, it's also with the age that is a little bit diminishing, and we saw it this year at Juventus.
Yeah, but maybe I'm crazy, but still I think that, as you said, if he's given like the chance to play every match, so that he stays in shape, Higuain can still be the kind of player who would score 20 goals per season for an Italian Serie A team. So if the costs are okay and are bearable, and if I were in the shoes of some Italian team, I would indeed definitely give Gonzalo Higuain a chance.
And from one player that made the story of Napoli to another one, Edinson Cavani. He is just terminated this contract as PSG. He ran out of contract. He was so close to sign for Benfica. Eventually, that did not happen. And now there are a couple of teams rumored to be close to him. Many Italian Serie A teams are thinking about him again. His wages are an issue, but we also see others, such as Leeds United, being quite interested in Cavani from the look of things. And of course, the big ones in Italy, Juventus, Inter, AC Milan, always thinking about Cavani as a great player. He's only 33 right now, but compared to Higuain, he's in a better fit. I think he's in a better shape. I still think he's quite good. He can run a couple of years. He is still in his legs. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, I must admit I was a bit concerned when I heard the link between Cavani and Benfica. As a Sporting fan, you start to wonder, does your defense cope with a guy like Cavani? But let's be honest, it was way out of their depth. So he was aiming at the 10 million net year. That's a 20 million a year investment. over 3 years, 60 million euros to be spent on Cavani. It's a lot for a team like Benfica. In the end, they made an offer quite below that, and it's not going to move forward. It was a bit like, going to buy a Lamborghini, and you go in the stand and you offer, here's 30,000, and they say, yeah, but the Lamborghini is 200,000. It's like, yeah, but I already offered 30,000. So it made no sense for even entering the stand if you don't have the money. It was basically what happened with Cavani. It was more of showing appreciation for him than everything else, and showing that Benfica is turning a page into being one of Europe's greats. The thing is, Cavani with 10 million a year net, let's be honest, in Europe, there's not many teams that you can look for. Italy, as we discussed, has the advantage of the tax situation. Maybe even a Monaco could be an idea that he stayed in France, but getting an easier cost. They're rebuilding though. They need a striker, but I don't think they're going to go for a player like Cavani's age. They already had the Falcao experience at that time. So I think Italy would be a nice comeback. Obviously, Napoli is full. Lazio wouldn't pay that to have a guy sitting behind Immobile. Fiorentina was not going to pay that. So it's the same as always. It's going to be one of the big ones. To be honest, I think this is something that we could see him going to Juventus. I think it's going to be a mistake if he went to Juventus, because he's not a very mobile forward. But it would be interesting to see him as at Juventus.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also, if you're looking at what Juventus is doing, right, getting rid of old and heavy players, does it make sense to get yet another one?
Actually, it would, in the sense of they always go for the free ones, right? It's the Juventus model. They pay a high wage, but they always go for the free one. Maybe out of Cavani, they could get 1 year or 2 years out of it and get a transition, because then they will also have to kick to the bin, but in a good way, Cristiano, and they can rebuild it softly. It would be a way to get rid of a player like Higuain, who has a high wage, and so has this one. But it would be a player that is proven in Italy, is a goal scorer also in France, doesn't have issues on physical shape like Higuain has. I think it would be a smoother transition while you rebuild the midfield, which is the biggest worry at Juventus right now.
For a point, to be honest, it's one of the players I'm more interested to see where he goes. I think he can still really make the difference anywhere in the world, especially in Europe. But let's see where it goes. And also from one Uruguayan to the other. Now, probably we're seeing the end of the Uruguay spell, but now let's move to Luis Suarez, who is being thrown down the tower at Barcelona. Stefano, what do you think? Is he still a good player? We did see, even during the debacle in Champions League of Barcelona, what a nice goal he scored, basically by himself. I think he's a very strong player. He can still give a lot to football. He's also 33 years old, as many of this group that we are discussing today. Currently, 2 teams being rumored about, Ajax being the stronger. Probably Ajax want to really make a strong, get a very strong player to again get back into high-level European shape. But also Juventus looking at a good and cheap option, as we discussed with Alex, either him or Cavani. What are your thoughts? Who would benefit the most from Luis Suarez?
Well, first of all, I honestly think that Luis Suarez is still an amazing player. You couldn't tell that he's 33 years old, nor from his body shape, which is still good, but also it's the look in his eyes. He still feels young. He's still hungry. No pun intended, or maybe yes. and you can tell that he's still has so much energy to put. And as you said, notwithstanding the debacle against Bayern Munich in the Champions League, he still played a very good match and also had a nice season overall, I would say. And so where can Suarez go? It will be very interesting to see him at Ajax. It was only 2 years ago that Ajax surprised all of us with such an amazing performance in the UEFA Champions League. And then, of course, they lost some key players after that, especially, but not only the Ligt in the defense, or
Frank de Jong.
Frank de Jong, yes, indeed. But maybe with Suarez, they could try to get back to at least close to the level in which they were in that season. But if I were to bet on Suarez's next destination, I would probably say Juventus, because we all know that Juventus is searching for an experienced center forward. The rumors were that they were on Edin Dzeko from Roma, and Suarez, to some extent, even with being a different player overall, he's still the experienced player that Juventus might be searching for. So I think it would be a good solution for them.
Just a challenge here. Wouldn't be too similar to Dybala. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. Maybe not too similar. I mean, they are both very technical, but probably Dybala prefers to start not that forward on the pitch, and then to use his amazing dribbling skills and all of that, and to strike from far from the goal. And maybe Suarez is more the pistolero, the one who still has an amazing technique, but wants to stay closer to the goal.
Yeah, that's true. They could work together, having a lighter attack compared to what they used to with Mandzukic and Higuain over the past couple of years. Let's see where that's gonna go. And to close off this section, we still have one player that we haven't discussed, and that is James Rodriguez. He's a couple of years already rumored to leave Real Madrid. He's not a key player at Real Madrid no more. He wants to be a key player. He's a little bit younger than the rest that we discussed, 29 years old. But again, if you really have to think about him, he really had only one good season with that World Cup. And then from that moment onwards, he was slowly getting down and down and down to more mediocre player. Do you think it's still a good player? Because indeed, he had one good season, one good spell with the World Cup. And then from that moment onwards, you could say he's just getting less and less good, almost to a mediocre, like good player, but not really top. Do you think that the 6-7 million a year he's asking for are still a reasonable amount of money to pay for him net a year, or is it too much?
I think it's definitely too much. I think you're onto something. I agree with you. Since that goal, the best goal of the World Cup in 2014, it's been a long way down from that. He got the huge transfer to Real Madrid for 60 million euros or 75 million euros. I don't recall. At that time, it was amazing. He was one of the wonder kids of the world at 23. Now at 29, he is a weight in Real Madrid's shoes, and that doesn't really contribute anything to the team or the club. He's paid very well. He still has one more year of contract, but they need to get rid of him. He was already at Bayern, and it didn't work. They paid for him 30 million so that he could go on loan there at the start. They had an option to buy. They didn't want to, because at least with Philippe Coutinho, he actually contributed to Bayern's success. James was more a passenger, to be honest, compared. He's been linked to many clubs, even Benfica and others, but his likely destination is currently going to Liverpool, and I mean the city of Liverpool, because he's rumored to go to Everton. He should in the coming days do a medical and see if he's reunited with Ancelotti, who managed him at both Real Madrid and Bayern. So it will be interesting to see. I think it's the winner of this situation, if this comes to fruition, is going to be Real Madrid. It's rumored that they're going to pay between 20 to 30 million euros for him, which is above the what Real Madrid actually wanted for him, or was rumored. So I think Real Madrid is going to be winner. I cannot imagine him settling well in England, with the harsh environment for him. He played very well his career in Porto and Monaco, where it's a bit easier, the weather, less pressure. But as soon as he went into a pressure situation like Madrid and Bayern, he couldn't succeed. So I'm questioning if going to a mad city like Liverpool now, with all the fans expecting success, if that's really the way to go for James, or if he shouldn't go, to a more familiar atmosphere where he's a starter, where he knows the league, the game. I'm concerned, to be honest.
Yeah, I must agree with you. And indeed, the other team that is rumored, or was rumored at least until 10 days ago, was actually Lazio. And I think that describes a little bit of the atmosphere you're mentioning, right? Starting every single league game and being a little bit of the star of the team and being nurtured by both the trainer and the management, right? In being in the best position to express your potential. And what they also don't understand, I mean, as you mentioned, he didn't have a good spell as Bayern Munich, and there was Ancelotti. Why should he get back with a manager that didn't give him the capability of expressing himself?
Yeah, no, it's a big wonder. Like, also technically, the way they're setting up with Richarlison being a free movement player up front, like that sounds like a problem, because he's gonna be in the same places where James will want to be. James wants that. To have that decision, that power of decision in terms where he goes, where he takes the ball, and I'm concerned that they will collide many times. And between both, Richarlison, as a 22, 23-year-old, has a higher ceiling. So I'm concerned that he's going to be sitting down suddenly at Goodison Park on the bench, and those benches are not as comfortable as the Santiago Bernabeu.
Yeah, very true. And let's see if indeed that's going to be a failure. But talking about failures, in the next section, we're going to talk about and deep dive in a team that is very close to being a failure.
Welcome to the last part of today's episode. It's the club on trial section. Our focus is set this week on Valencia, the beautiful city down in south. The beautiful city down in south of Spain has a lot of problems at that time. It was purchased in 2014 by Peter Lim in association with Jorge Mendes. In that time, it was able to have a lot of problems. Firstly, in 6 years, they had 6 sporting directors, 8 managers, and 5 youth academy directors. So this is a lot. Also, they have continuous financial problems. They finally burst this year. They've been losing around 30 to 40 million a year. This year, the show is over. And the team has about a yearly wage of around 90 million. Now, the president already said that it has to be halved. They need to make 120 million of profit in transfers this year. And this is not even the start. The issue about Valencia, they have a stadium that is still unfinished. They've been building the same stadium since 2007. And in Spain, they were supposed to pay the wages of the players in June. They were not able to do this. They had to offer them what is called a credit note, which basically means that the players can then recoup their wages by asking the money from a bank. Now, this is all settled with Valencia. They did it. The players are not accepting it for a very simple reason. They would only be able to cash in this in September 2021, which means they would have to go over a year without getting their wages. It's just preposterous. We're seeing also players like the captain Parejo leaving the club after 9 years and going to their rivals for free in Villarreal. Coquelin also left for 13 million. Rodrigo left for another 30 to Leeds, and more will follow. Now, the question is, how are they going to be able to bring back this team? It's a team that is now dependent on Champions League success. There is no other way around it. I'm concerned about Valencia and about their players. They have still amazing players like Gaia, like Carlos Soler, like Guedes. Now the question is, what kind of team will they have next year? If they have their investment, are they even able to compete for? I'm not even saying Champions League. That's way far beyond their standards. But Europa League, are they able, or are they going to be a mid-sized team in the near future? What do you think, Marco?
I'm actually quite concerned about the latter as well. I think there's a lot in teams that is motivation, and there is the commitment that player have. If you see your team being dismantled left and right, your captain, as you mentioned, leaving for free for your competitor team, that means that things are not going well. And again, having the investment and still mentioning that Champions League is a must for a team such as Valencia to keep on going in a positive. How can you even consider that? Like, okay, you might have the magical year when you get the 19 years old youngster from Norwegia that becomes the best player in the world. But how likely is that really? I'm quite concerned. I don't want to be too negative, but I think that this might end up in a new Sunderland. Team that were aiming for the top at a certain point were changing because they had to change, got rid of a couple of players, and then once the motivation falls, you're expecting to win. And once you start to fight for the bottom positions of the league, you have no motivation. A newly promoted team was expecting to be down there and will fight with the best they can get. They're going to give 110% just to stay in the top league. A player such as Gaia, who knows that anytime he can leave for another team and be in the starting 11 of said team, what motivation is going to have? He's just going to ask to leave in January. Probably Valencia won't allow him. And then he's going to be depressed for the rest of the season. Quite concerned, to be honest, Alex.
Yeah, you know what, Marco, I am very concerned too, especially because this whole situation to me seems like one of those vicious circles, the situation in which there is a problem, and to try to solve the problem, you create more problems. Indeed, if you adopt this kind of business model, the one in which you have to perform good and get access to the Champions League every year to survive, and then for 1 year you miss the qualification and you don't go to Champions League, and so you are in trouble and you have to sell many players to make up for that. Of course, it's probably gonna get worse, right? How can you get back to your previous shape if you keep selling players and all of that? And it does feel like a vicious circle, you know.
Yeah, let's be honest. Like the CEO of the club was quite frank with fans. They said every player that has 2 or less years of contract has to leave. We need to sell them all. So it's a desperate situation that they're undergoing. So they estimate about losing 40 to 50% of the revenues of next year. They have no Champions League football to play. So it's a big problem. Players like Garay have already left for free, and Ferran Torres went to Manchester City. More will follow. They still have really interesting players like Gaia, Carlos Soler, Maxi Gomez, Kondogbia. So there's a lot still to happen. They're going to bleed way before. And now the question is, what Valencia will we see? Will they ever finish the stadium is another question, which, to be honest, is not as vital right now because the club is in dire situation. But for me, the important thing is, what does this say for a model that is being used in England? Everyone does this. In Italy, most clubs do this, which is the ownership of clubs by private investors. So Peter Lim bought the club in 2014, really invested heavily, got it to a nice level, started selling off some players. Now it became unsustainable, which is okay. The issue is they protested. They said, Lim, get out of the club. And his daughter had the smart idea to tweet a very interesting line. Here again, and I quote, "Here again, some Valencia fans are scolding and cursing at my family and I. Don't they get it? The club is ours, and we can do anything we want with it, and no one can say anything.
Nice.
So basically, this is something that I feel very attached to, which is the ownership in football. I support a club that is fan-owned, and maybe that is a model that is no longer up to date. But for me, seeing these models that owners do what they want, and fans seeing them cursing at them on the street, yeah, but it's our club. No, it's not your club technically right now because you sold it. So my question is, should we start revising this? Should we start seeing maybe we should change a bit the way we structure football nowadays? We see nation states taking over PSG and City. We see clubs failing like Sunderland, like Valencia, and others due to bad management. What are your thoughts on this model, Marco?
That's a very good point, Alex. And indeed, in Italy, we have quite the opposite situation compared to you in Portugal, as you mentioned, right? Basically, every single club is owned by a private. The big difference, I believe, it's really about how good this person is, and you can't really understand that until it's too late. We have seen Parma really struggling of bad management and ended up bankrupted now back in Serie A because the new president was quite good and knew what he was doing. But at the same time, we also saw, I don't know, Palermo, where they had a great team. They had likes of Dybala and Cavani in that team. Like, they had amazing players. And yet still they ended up bankrupting and doing illegal actions because the president didn't know how to manage the team. And at the same time, he wanted too much money to sell the team. The problem is, I believe, when these people see clubs as either toys or investment opportunities. That is not the best option. And I believe football nowadays should really have some kind of mandatory due diligence made by leagues if they want to allow private ownership. We did see people without, like the very last president of Parma before the bankruptcy, he bought the club for €1 and he didn't have any money. He didn't pay a single monthly wage to the players. Why? Because he didn't have them. He just wanted to get famous. Like, that is absurd that such thing are even allowed. There should be some kind of board, I guess, or some kind of financial check on these kind of things. On the other hand, there are companies, like clubs are companies. So I don't think you can really get rid of the privatization of them. It's quite a hard topic. I don't have the answer, but it's definitely something that is worth being looked at.
Yeah, personally, I believe that if you are a private investor owning a team, sometimes maybe you fail to see how your supporters do feel like they are to some extent owning the team. It is something that you need to cope with if you are the private investor owning the team. That's because you can't just act like it weren't that most of your income comes either directly or indirectly from your supporters. And so there should be maybe some kind of stronger link with them, some maybe enhanced dialogue or something more than that. And I think it's one of the issues which might be causing this type of situation, such as the one Valencia is experiencing now.
Yeah, I think I don't want to make it a big topic right now, but it's a situation that we will see in many other clubs afterwards. And the model is flawed. I agree with Marco. There is not a right answer, or I don't have it at least. But the current model is not sustainable. You see people who come and take advantage of clubs, and some of them, like City, they invest and they really try to bring effort through and results out of it. So let's not, cast them all as mean, but there are a lot of risks connected to this. We also have now some legal situations going on between Peter Lim and Jorge Mendes, who might be on the hook for some issues that we will definitely cover in future podcasts connected to the Mendes carousel of players that always switch around clubs. But I'm worried that Valencia next year might not even be playing for Europa League. It might even be concerned with relegation. Let's be honest, if players are not getting paid, how much effort are they going to put in, Marco?
Fully agree with you. That's what also I was mentioning, right? I think it's a very delicate situation, and I don't believe it's being addressed in the right way by no one really in Valencia at the moment. I do see everyone being more concerned about the financial, fans really asking for more investments, which is often the case when you have a private investor. As a fan, you just want to see the best player in your team with no regards of how good the bank balance is and how manageable, is whatever you're doing. I mean, the best president of Lazio, like being remembered as the best president, is Cragnotti, who invested 500 billion he didn't have in a team and then almost put it into bankruptcy. He won a league, yes, great. We had Nesta, we had Nedved, we have Vieri, Crespo, but it wasn't sustainable. What's the point of it, right? But as a fan, you only want to see that cup being in the hands of your captain when it's about winning it. And that's the only thing you care. And I think this is the main issue of football. We see, despite financial fair play, debt raising in across Europe, really. Again, as you mentioned, it's quite concerning for Valencia, but it's not going to be the first nor the last team having this kind of issue. We also heard this week that Seterin mentioned that financial fair play is not sufficient. There should be something else, and they're possibly planning about something else. What though? Big question. I think they don't know either at the moment.
At least in the model of Barcelona, for instance, when they apply to be presidents of it, the candidates and the team that is going to want to manage Barcelona, they have to put a lot of money reserved as, if we fail, here is money that you can use to remediate the situation financially. So that's also what's now we can see at Barcelona. They're trying to make up for the money so that they personally don't lose anything, because they need to put aside money when you become president. So in case you incur in losses, the club does not suffer. So I don't know, maybe it's an idea, maybe not, but something has to be done. You cannot allow anyone just to pass a small text and saying, well, I am not corrupt and I have not killed anyone. That's not sufficient to be managing or buying a football club anywhere in the world. I'm sorry, but this is just not the standard. So
what's your verdict, Alex, for Valencia?
Well, my verdict for Valencia is they're going to go through a lot of chaos in the next 12 to 24 months. I think they will not go down because they have enough in the youth academy. They have very promising youngsters coming up, but I cannot see them playing European competitions in the near future, to be honest. I think they're going to go through a desert of ideas until probably Peter Lim gives up and sells the club. I think that's the verdict from us here at the European Football Verdicts. So guys, that was it for this week. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steph.
Thank you so much, guys.
That was it. We will see you guys next week with another Euro Football Verdicts podcast. Remember to email us your questions on eurofootballverdicts@gmail.com, and obviously follow us on Instagram at the same name page. Thank you and bye-bye.